Imagine waking up to the news that your city, your home, is the latest site of a major terror attack. A wave of shock and disbelief, like a bitter chill, sweeps across the nation. The heart of Russia, Moscow, had been hit by an unforeseen attack. An act of terror that shook the core of the country and held its citizens in a relentless grip of fear. It was an ordinary day, as ordinary as any can be, until it wasn't. The bustling city of Moscow, always alive with the hum of activity, was abruptly halted. A terror attack of a significant scale had occurred, and the city was plunged into a state of chaos and panic. The details started to filter in, painting a grim picture of the horrifying event. Casualties were reported, the numbers daunting, each one a life abruptly ended or forever altered. The immediate aftermath was a scene of devastation, of a city and its people trying to make sense of the senseless. The shock was palpable, a nation grappling with the reality of such a horrific event. Fear, too, wound its way through the streets, an unwelcome guest in the homes of Moscow's residents. The city that never sleeps was suddenly awake to a nightmare, the echoes of the attack ringing ominously in the air. Yet, in the midst of the fear and the shock, there was also resilience, a determination to stand firm, to not let this act of terror break the spirit of the city or its people, a resolve to bring those responsible to justice, to ensure that such a tragedy would not go unanswered. In the wake of this tragedy, fingers quickly started pointing towards a suspect. The terror attack had left a wound, and now the search was on for who had inflicted it. In the corridors of power and in the hushed whispers of citizens, one name was being mentioned more than others. Accusations were starting to fly, and the stage was set for a confrontation that would reverberate far beyond the borders of Russia. In the aftermath of the attack, accusations were quick to follow. The dust had barely settled when Russian President Putin stepped into the global spotlight, his gaze firmly set on Ukraine. The narrative he painted was clear and chilling. Ukraine, he claimed, was the puppet master behind the terror that had shaken Moscow to its core. Putin's response to the attack was swift and unequivocal. He accused Ukraine of orchestrating the terror plot, presenting what he claimed to be incontrovertible evidence of their involvement. The details were sketchy. The proof, he said, was in the intricate web of connections leading back to Kyiv. A network of covert operatives, clandestine meetings, and encrypted communications all pointed towards one direction, according to Putin, Ukraine. His reasons for this accusation had a dual focus. The first, he argued, was Ukraine's long-standing animosity towards Russia, a bitter feud that had only intensified over recent years. The second, he insisted, was an attempt by Ukraine to destabilize Russia, to sow discord and fear amongst its populace, and to weaken its position on the global stage. The public's reaction to Putin's allegations was a maelstrom of shock, anger, and disbelief. Many Russians rallied behind their leader, their national pride stung by the audacity of the attack. Others, however, voiced their skepticism, questioning the veracity of the evidence presented and the speed with which Ukraine was blamed. Internationally, the accusations sparked a firestorm of controversy and debate. Some leaders expressed their support for Putin's stance, while others vehemently denied the possibility of Ukraine's involvement, citing a lack of concrete evidence and calling for a thorough and unbiased investigation. But as with every story, there's always another side. As the accusations flew, Ukraine prepared to present its own narrative, a counter-argument that would challenge Putin's claims and shed new light on the murky circumstances surrounding the attack. Accusations, no matter how serious, always carry the right to a defense. In the wake of Putin's allegations, Ukraine didn't remain silent. The nation responded swiftly and decisively, denying any involvement in the alleged terror attacks on Moscow. Ukraine's officials refuted the allegations, reasoning that these claims were nothing more than a ploy by Putin to justify an invasion on their soil. They argued that Putin was manipulating a narrative to suit his own political agenda, using fear as a tool to rally his people. Could there be some truth to this? After all, history has seen its fair share of leaders who've used fear and propaganda to justify their actions. Ukraine didn't just voice a denial. They presented evidence to support their stance. They laid out a timeline of events, highlighted inconsistencies in the Russian narrative and questioned the lack of concrete evidence tying them to the alleged attacks. They put forth a compelling case, raising reasonable doubts about the validity of Putin's claims. But what did the international community make of this? The reaction was mixed. While some nations were quick to side with Ukraine, others remained cautiously neutral, waiting for more evidence to emerge. There was a general consensus, however, that the situation needed careful handling to prevent further escalation. Many stressed the importance of a thorough, impartial investigation to unearth the truth. The world watched as Ukraine stood its ground against the accusations, their denial ringing out loud and clear. They refused to be painted as the villain in this narrative, challenging the world to question, to dig deeper, to seek the truth. So where does this leave us now? As we move forward, the echoes of Ukraine's denial continue to reverberate, casting long shadows over the unfolding events. The world waits, watches, and wonders what the next act in this geopolitical drama will be. When nations clash, the consequences can be far-reaching. This statement rings especially true in the case of the brewing controversy between Russia and Ukraine. The implications of this dispute are not limited to these two nations, but could potentially send shockwaves across the globe. Let's first consider the potential for increased tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Accusations of this magnitude are not just diplomatically damaging, they can fuel animosity and mistrust. The relations between these two nations, already strained, could further deteriorate, pushing them into a cycle of retaliation and counter-retaliation. The fabric of peace in the region, already threadbare, hangs by a tenuous thread. The possibility of international intervention is another significant implication. The world is watching. International bodies like the United Nations could step in to mediate or even impose sanctions. Countries with vested interests might be compelled to pick sides, fracturing the global community into factions. The ensuing political chess game could lead to a shift in global alliances, redefining the world order as we know it. Now, let's not forget the potential impact on civilians in both countries. The common people often bear the brunt of political power plays. Accusations of terrorism could lead to heightened security measures, restricted freedoms, and a climate of fear. If the situation escalates to a military confrontation, the human cost could be devastating. Lives could be lost, homes destroyed, futures shattered. But there's more to this than just the geopolitical implications. We also need to consider the possible internal ramifications. Could this controversy be a tool to rally public support? Could it be a distraction from other pressing issues? These are questions that need to be asked. But in the end, truth has a way of surfacing. This controversy, like many before it, will eventually unravel. The facts will emerge, the motives will be exposed. Until then, the world can only watch, wait, and hope for a peaceful resolution. Behind the headlines, there's always a deeper narrative. And in this case, the undercurrents of this narrative may just be as turbulent as the surface. Let's delve into the potential motives behind President Putin's accusations. It's no secret that politics often thrives on opportunity, and in crisis, opportunity often presents itself in abundance. Could it be that Putin is seizing this moment of chaos to further his own political agenda? Some analysts posit just that. They suggest that Putin might be using the attack as a convenient justification for further aggression against Ukraine. It's a theory that's not entirely far-fetched. After all, by painting Ukraine as the enemy, Putin can rally his people around a common cause, unifying them in the face of a perceived threat. This could serve to bolster nationalistic sentiments within Russia, strengthening Putin's position and further consolidating his power. But it's not just about internal politics. On the international stage, these allegations could potentially serve as a smokescreen, diverting global attention away from Russia's own actions. It's a high-stakes gamble, but if it pays off, Putin could gain significant ground. Yet we must remain cautious in drawing conclusions. These are, after all, theories, and the truth is often more complex than it appears. What we can say for certain is that, in the shadowy world of political maneuvering, nothing is ever quite as it seems. As we continue to analyze this unfolding situation, we must bear in mind that these are not just political games. The outcomes have real, tangible implications for the people of Russia and Ukraine, and indeed for the stability of the region as a whole. In the game of politics, the stakes are always high. And in this particular game, it seems the moves are as unpredictable as they are consequential. In the shadow of accusations, Ukraine stands firm. Amidst the tumultuous tides of international politics, Ukraine finds itself in a tough spot. The recent events have not only challenged the nation's political stability, but also cast a shadow on its global standing. From Ukraine's perspective, these accusations are far from the truth. They view this as a ploy, a strategic maneuver by Russia to justify their actions. Ukraine maintains that they have no part in these alleged terror attacks, and that their focus remains on the well-being of their own citizens. This incident, however, does pose a significant impact on Ukraine's political landscape. It's a test of their resilience, their ability to stand against external pressures while maintaining internal stability. It's a delicate balancing act, one that requires diplomacy, strategic decision-making, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. The international community's reaction to these events could shape Ukraine's future relationships. Allies might be tested, new partnerships might be forged, and Ukraine's role on the global stage could be redefined. As they navigate these complex dynamics, their strategies moving forward will need to be rooted in maintaining national security, fostering diplomatic relations, and safeguarding their citizens' rights. Speaking of the citizens, the Ukrainian people are undoubtedly feeling the weight of these allegations. The fear of an impending invasion, the uncertainty of their nation's future, and the challenge of maintaining everyday life amidst political turmoil all contribute to a heightened sense of unease. However, it's during these trying times that the spirit of unity often shines the brightest. Indeed, history has shown us that adversity can bring a nation together, fostering a collective strength that can weather even the toughest of storms. It's this unity, this shared resilience, that Ukraine will need to rely on as they navigate their way forward. In times of crisis, unity becomes key. And as Ukraine faces this crisis, it's the unity and resolve of its people that will guide it through. As the dust settles, the path forward remains uncertain. In the unfolding geopolitical drama between Russia and Ukraine, the road ahead is shrouded in mystery and apprehension. The future could take on several forms, each with its own set of implications for the global stage. Firstly, let's consider the scenario where the truth surfaces. If Russia's allegations of Ukraine's involvement in the terror attacks are proven to be true, it would likely exacerbate tensions between the two nations, potentially pushing them to the brink of war. However, if Ukraine's denial is validated, it could turn the tide of public sentiment against Russia, potentially isolating it further on the global stage. Then there's the possibility of escalating tensions, a situation where neither side backs down and the accusations and denials continue to fuel the fire. This scenario could lead to an impasse, with the risk of violent conflict looming large. Such a development would be a significant concern, not only for the two nations involved, but for the entire world. On the other hand, we could see diplomatic resolutions being sought. In this scenario, both nations, along with the international community, may strive to diffuse the situation through dialogue and negotiation. The role of the international community here is crucial. It is they who provide the stage for such discussions, applying pressure where needed to ensure a peaceful outcome. However, the road to peace is seldom straightforward. It's often a winding path, filled with unexpected twists and turns. It requires patience, diplomacy, and a genuine desire for harmony. As we move forward, it's essential to remember that every action, every decision, has the potential to bring us closer to peace or push us further into conflict. In the end, the path to peace is often fraught with challenges. But as history has shown us, it's a journey worth taking. For it is only through peace that we can hope to build a future where trust and cooperation replace suspicion and conflict. In the complex world of politics, events rarely stand alone. We've journeyed through an intricate narrative today, beginning with an unforeseen attack on Moscow, leading to accusations from Russia against Ukraine. Ukraine's vehement denial added another layer of complexity, suggesting a potential ploy by Putin to justify an invasion. These allegations and denials are not simply words exchanged between nations. They mark the start of a dangerous game with implications that reach far beyond borders. They can shape the future of these nations and impact the global political landscape. In attempting to understand such events, critical thinking and informed decision-making become our most reliable compass. We must dig beneath the surface, not simply accepting narratives at face value, but examining the motives and potential repercussions. Yet, while we delve into the machinations of politics and power, let's not lose sight of the human element. Behind the geopolitical chess game are real lives, real tragedies. As we navigate these turbulent times, remembering the human cost at the heart of these events is paramount.